Why do you think movement helps depression so much?
I think, well, it's the idea, and I used to be depressed. I would get up and not feel like doing anything. And I occasionally do that. And, I already have the strategy. It's like I have to earn my couch time because sometimes, like every once in a while, like on a Saturday, I've had a rough week. I just want to like stay on the couch. So I think it's doing the opposite to what you feel. So people with depression kind of do things that make it worse. They avoid people. They don't get outside, they don't exercise. So when you do the opposite, you can actually change your mood. If you do the opposite, if you're afraid of something and you face it over time, the fear will go away. So it's the same with depression. If you're feeling low, but you do things that kind of change it, you can change how you feel throughout the day.
Welcome to Beyond the Scale, the show where everyday heroes share their stories on how they turn their lives around for the healthier. I'm Coach Whitney, and today's guest is Tara Myers. She shares how movement and exercise can help decrease depression. Hope you enjoy. Welcome, Tara. How are you today?
Good. It's good to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. So let's start off by telling the audience what you currently do for a living.
I am a dialectical behavior therapist. It's a specialty behavioral therapy for people with probably the most problems: suicidality, drug addiction, eating disorders, pretty much you name it.
Okay, yeah. And how do you like doing that?
I love it. It's really, really stressful, demanding, a lot more training than we don't just talk. And we really push for change. We have to find a balance. But so it's very demanding and stressful. I get a lot of contact with crisis calls, but it's really rewarding to see somebody that is often deemed, hopeless, see them get better. So.
Yeah. And you feel like that's your life purpose?
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Now, what Fit Body Bootcamp location do you attend?
Placentia. Sometimes I'll go to the Anaheim location owned by the same owner, but usually Placentia.
Okay. And how long have you been there for?
So I started, I think it was like February 20th, 21st. I did the 21-day.
Of this year? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. And then how do you like it so far?
I really like it. I like the atmosphere. The owner and the trainers have always been really encouraging, and they modify when necessary. I had a bout of asthma in March, and I wouldn't go outside. I was and they would let me run inside.
That's what's cool about having the indoor boot camp, right? You don't have to worry about any of the outdoor issues that could come to play.
Right, and some people push you beyond. They don't listen to what you're saying. And, so I was actually at 50% lung capacity. I went to a specialist in the month of March, and they definitely worked with me. And I felt like I started getting momentum and I didn't want to stop. So I was like, I could still have half my lung capacity.
There you go, right? That no excuse mentality, I love it. And so what type of results have you seen so far from being at Fit Body?
Well, initially in February, it was not very long. I quickly lost about 6 pounds without changing my diet. And then in the month of March, I basically did keto with going to boot camp 4 or 5 times a week. And I lost, it's tricky, like 15 pounds, but I also gained a lot of muscle. And they had measured my waist, and I lost 8 pounds around my belly button, which is just huge.
Heck yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So in 1 month, it was really drastic, and that was really motivating to me. And I felt, I was kind of skeptical about the whole you'll have more energy, going and like wearing yourself out. But I actually really did. And I sit a lot during the day, and that kind of kept me going and throughout the day, and I never had any like carb cravings or anything like that. So what they say is true. It gives you more energy.
So, I think that's what a lot of people, may get wrong. They think that you're exhausting all your energy working out. You lose all your energy for the day, but it's so true. You just really get so much more energy. I wake up easier when I work out. I don't know about you.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah.
So where did your fitness journey start? Has fitness always played a part in your life, or has it just been recently?
Actually, When I was younger, I grew up pretty close to the Delaware Water Gap, so there was a lot of mountains, and we played outside. That's what kids used to do back then.
Yeah, back in the day, right? No tablets.
We were all over the place. So we rode our bikes, and we lived on a mountain, so we were fit naturally. When I was a teenager, I kind of had a different lifestyle. I was not interested at all in exercising. I actually smoked a pack of cigarettes a day.
Wow.
And
what age was this?
At 14.
Wow.
You used to be able to do that back then.
Yeah, back then.
So probably I had my first marriage. I had my son when I was about 26, and I never was in shape. I walked a lot though, so that always kept me. I was pretty small then. I was smaller than I am now. I was always size 2'4", and never had to do anything. Ate garbage. It probably was smoking is what really did it. But after I had my son, I had been vegan, and I actually gained 70 pounds when I was pregnant. And afterwards, that was the first time in my life that I was overweight. And so at college, I was working on my associate's degree then. I joined the gym there, and they set me up with like a whole weightlifting program. And I really liked lifting weights. I have pictures of me when I was younger, and my arms were literally like that big. And it was like, and so I saw results pretty quickly because of that. So I really liked weightlifting. And shortly after that, I joined the Army later in life. I was 26, 27, Army Reserves.
Okay.
And
thank you for serving, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. So that was another fitness journey. I was very in shape. I had no endurance, and they kind of taught me that.
Okay.
A backpack is, 10 miles with no food in your system.
I can't even fathom doing that. So what type of like hardships or problems did you have to face early on, if any?
Well, I'm actually working on my biography right now. I came from, it's kind of like a Lifetime for Women story almost, but both parents are addicts. I went in foster homes, a lot of abuse and switching around, and moved out on my own when I was 16. And I was in trouble. I did drugs and kind of was on the wrong path. And when I was 18, I just really kind of had an epiphany and was like, you're not going to do this. Like, you're not going to be like, your parents or whatever. And so I started to change, but I had met criteria for about 5 different disorders. I was deemed one of the hopeless. And therapy was really frustrating. I kind of found my own way. Behavioral therapy isn't really popular, which really pushes you to change. And I kind of figured it out on my own. It was a long road, but exercise was one of the best things for depression. I don't take medication.
That's amazing.
And that's a big part of how I work with people. There's a treatment called behavioral activation, and it's the whole idea is you get up, you don't feel like it, but do what's actually going to kind of give you those results later in the day, and that becomes naturally reinforcing, kind of like Fit Body Boot Camp. I mean, the first couple of days, I wasn't like, woo, I love this. I was like, oh, this is hard. But after a while, you're like, I don't even have to think about it because, first of all, it's only 30 minutes.
Right, I love that.
But it's naturally reinforcing now, so.
Now, speaking of it only being 30 minutes, did you find before that other fitness programs maybe were hard to fit in your schedule because the longer time that you needed?
Yes, so it was a long road in me becoming licensed to be a therapist. I graduated in 2010, and then becoming licensed, it's very competitive in Orange County. I didn't know what type of therapist I wanted to be, so I worked really hard and started my own practice 3 years ago.
Okay.
And I have a waiting list now, and I have another therapist underneath me who has a waiting list. I don't know if I should say underneath me, but she's my employee.
Yeah, right.
And so I had to work like a lot for years to make that happen. And fitness just, it just was non-existent. I had hired a trainer. But we had kind of different goals. She was a power lifter, so she had me powerlifting, and I really don't enjoy the gym personally. I'm more of an outdoorsy person. So it wasn't until I kind of, I had gained a lot of weight last year. I was, size 12. I'm almost size 4 now, and I was kind of telling myself it's my age, it's, you know, all those excuses we tell ourselves to, you know, to feel better and stay in your warm little bubble. And I started hiking. There's an organization called, you might have heard of it, Girls Who Hike LA, and they hike peaks. And, you know, I grew up in the East Coast. I've never hiked like, you know, 10,000, you know, feet.
Yeah.
And so I went on one hike with them and I fell in love with it. And I was in poor shape. I have a lot of mental capacity because of the Army, I suppose. But my husband and I started doing it, and then we had decided in December to hike Mount Whitney. And I wanted to not huff and puff. And I was motivated to get in shape to do things that I loved. And so, but you can't really lose a whole lot of weight hiking once a week. You know what I mean? Like, and so that's what, you know, that's when I started thinking I need to do something to get in shape. I need something that's increasing my lung capacity, you know, and things like that, which, you know, boot camp does because it has some of the high intensity.
Right.
And I just happened to drive by it and I looked at it and it really made sense to me because I was like, I could fit 30 minutes in my schedule. It's literally a half a mile from my house.
Okay.
So that really helped. And so obviously the trial period, you have really nothing to lose. And so that's kind of what changed things. And so now I ride my bike, I hike, I, you know, walk my dog a lot. I go to boot camp, I go to yoga. So it's pretty much my whole life now.
I love that. So when you said you drove by Fit Body and that's when you first got a feel for it, were you skeptical at all about the program before you went in?
I was a little skeptical about 30 minutes, but I did a little research and that whole idea of the afterburn effect, I was like, why not, you know? And I had known that things like running and, you know, more endurance are really just not very efficient. You know, you have to do a lot of it and then you stop and it immediately.
Right.
And some of the stuff I was reading, it actually ages you. And, you know, I'm approaching 50, so I don't want that. So whereas more the high intensity using weights is actually, I feel like 20 years younger. I mean, I'm serious too.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that. Those are those non-scale victory wins right there, feeling, you know, so many years younger and looking amazing too.
Oh, thank you.
So what was your experience like when you first went into Fit Body Boot Camp?
Everyone was really warm and welcoming. It didn't have that environment. You know, it's interesting, you know, like some gyms, you know, where you just feel like you're being, you know, I don't know, like people are judging you and things like that. So, and there's people of all ages, shapes, and sizes. So it was very warm and welcoming, and they definitely, it's more of encouraging and pushing you at the same time, but you don't feel like, you know, I don't enjoy being yelled at, which obviously the Army, they do that.
I was going to say,
you got used to it, but I still don't like it. So the way they do it is really encouraging. So, and it's a lot, you know, trying to do videos at home, you know, you could just sit there and like,
it's easy just to stop.
Right, but then I kind of feel foolish doing that when everyone else around me is working at, like, why am I here?
Right.
So that's what I noticed right off the bat. The owners of the boot camp I go to, Mandy and Franco, are really, really involved, and they actually had gone through it themselves. And they're, you know, older than me. Sorry. But they look fantastic.
That's all that matters, how you look and feel. At the end of the day, it's really just how you feel, but yeah.
Right. So, and they've been involved in, you know, let's talk about your diet and things like that. And I'm pretty stubborn with things like that, but I still, you know, I was like, it's a service. I might as well take advantage of it. And it was really like that first month when she measured me, it was like, whoa, that's, you know, that really encouraged me to keep going.
Got it. Now, how does Fit Body Boot Camp help you with your hiking, and does it make it easier for you?
Oh yeah, I wish we had the original Mount San Antonio we did last November. And I remember it's really steep going up. Like you do most of the climb in 3 miles. I mean, at one point you're like scrambling. And I remember stopping and like catching my breath and my heart. And I kept thinking it was the altitude. It was really just the fact that I was not in shape.
Oh, okay.
My heart was like, rah. And now it was like, I didn't have to stop. I had to eat so many, I would have to stop for like a carb break every like 20, 30 minutes.
Carb up.
Yeah, and now I hardly eat. Like I'm way more efficient, and I usually wait till I get to the top, and no more sugar and things like that. I don't need it anymore. So it's made me definitely more fit, but more efficient as far as like long-term endurance. I don't have to keep eating. So
Yeah. Now you talked about sugar. So do you like keep that to a very minimum in your like daily diet, or do you like cut it out completely?
I do. I actually did keto and then paleo, which
Okay.
my body seems to really like paleo quite a bit. And I mean, not like perfectly. I'm going to eat, some a baguette now and then or some pizza, but in moderation. So I notice I work a lot better. I mean, even the hiking and I went for a 47-mile bike ride Saturday, and I didn't eat once each way. It was an out and back, and it just makes me feel better because I'm burning my own energy versus like I get like kind of addicted to sugar, like, and it's not efficient because it wears off in about 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think that so many of us get addicted to sugar, and it's just like cutting that out of your diet can make such a huge difference.
Right.
So you're on this road at Fit Body Bootcamp doing your whole fitness journey. Do you ever find times when it's, hard to get yourself to the gym?
Actually, recently, I had an injury back in the end of April. I think I just overtrained, and I did one big hike and came down really fast. It's actually pretty hard on your body. If you come down fast, you're pounding. And so I have a kind of a glute injury, which affects my lower back. So that, it makes me emotional. Like I get frustrated because I can't do the same things, but then I usually come around and it's like there's so many workarounds. So I can't actually, I have a chiropractor, I can't jump up and down right now. And so I do squats, and there's a competition now, you're supposed to do burpees, and I'm not supposed to do burpees. So I've been doing double of either squats, push-ups, or pull-ups.
Okay.
So I'm kind of, which is equally as tiring.
Yeah. So even with the injury, you still find yourself making your way into Fit Body.
Now it's such a lifestyle change. It's so important to me. It's not about how I look or anything. It's like I don't want to, lose it. It's so important to me now that I don't want to ever, let it kind of slip away, because that's usually how it happens. You get busy and I'll do it tomorrow, and it's not going to happen again. Like I can say that with confidence, and most people don't believe me. Like they're like, "Oh, you never know," and I'm like, "No, I do know. I made a plan for what could potentially get in my way, like an injury. Like there's always things you could do, to work around.
Yeah.
Even if it's lower body, you work the upper body."
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I love about Fit Body. They help you with those modifications and don't make you feel like, oh, you can't do it. Come back when you're healed.
Right.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
So you have such a strong mentality. Do you have any advice that you would give out to our listeners to help them develop a strong mentality?
I think it's really being very honest with yourself. As a behavioral therapist, we have this thing, we call it passive avoidance. So things like telling myself, I'm just getting older, it made me feel better to say that. Like we say things, I'll do it tomorrow. It makes you feel better in the moment. So we do a lot of things to kind of appease our, unrest or, what's causing us trouble, but being really honest with ourselves. I think that's really important. And, not saying I'm too busy. It's saying, okay, where can I make time? So actually last December, I was at the Grand Canyon with my daughter, and I hadn't weighed myself in about 2 years because I just was like, oh, this is my new older self. And like, I didn't really look in the mirror, and I was kind of in this avoidant bubble. Like I didn't really think about it. I was like, oh, it's the holidays. And I had gained literally close to 30 pounds. And somehow it just happened to me. But my daughter, I took a picture of me, and I said, do I look kind of big in this picture? And she's like, Mom, no offense, you kind of got fat. And I was like,
whoa.
And adults won't tell you that. And I looked at the picture and I was like, she's right. Like I even had a scarf on and it was hot out, but that was like, my husband, like, you did that to cover your stomach. And it forced me to be honest with myself. And, most people won't, like my husband wasn't going to say, girl, you're looking fat, And so I think you can do that. It's like, look at, I don't weigh myself that often, but I do for accountability, especially if I, kind of cheat a lot or slip a lot, because that's where it starts, that avoidance, like, oh, it's just, the holidays, it's water weight, it's whatever you tell yourself to feel better. And then you step on this, it's a couple pounds, no big deal. Like, I'll just be, get back on track. So I do think that accountability is really, really helpful. But, I think the important part, there's rewards more long-term. It's learning how to, okay, like I've never eaten like a piece of cake. Cake's not my thing. I'm more of a savory person, but like a big hamburger and fries, and you don't think about it all day. It's gone. You're not like, oh wow. The next day you're like, that hamburger. Occasionally maybe. It's especially good. But feeling better about yourself, that lasts longer. Like, so learning how, okay, I could go, just eat, something like that, or I can make a modification. I'm very big about I'll eat half of it, what I mean? So I don't feel deprived, but, stuffing myself is not going, it's not like, oh, wow.
Yeah, it's great in the moment, but then that's it. Where if you can limit or balance yourself, you have that long-term happiness and sustainability. So do you find that you can hold yourself accountable, or do you need someone else to help you hold accountable?
I think the boot camp, because if I don't show up, they're like, where have you been? And things like that. That does help with accountability. Diet-wise, I seem to do okay, but my husband and I kind of have worked on this together too. So, so I think I'm pretty good at, I use, MyFitnessPal. And now I'm actually using, I can't remember the name, the one for the the keto challenge that's going on now. And so that helps to like, okay, this is my day. If I'm going to go away, we weren't supposed to cheat, but the first weekend I went to Idlewild and I was like, I'm not cheating. I'm actually going to enjoy a little bit of, wine with my meal this evening. But I went into my, and I kind of rearranged the numbers. So I didn't want to even call it a cheat. Like I'm going for a weekend away with my husband. They just kind of coincided. Yeah. That doesn't happen often either, that I go away, and so I think that's really important, that you allow, yourself, but you're looking honestly, this is what's happening, not, okay, it's no big deal. It's just a little hamburger, and then you look and it's like, like, oh. Like it's enough for your food intake for the day. Right. That's what I like is, charting, like whether you write it down or put it in MyFitnessPal, the food that you're eating, so that way you become more aware about it. Right. And like, it's not like you have to be on a strict diet, just become aware of what you're eating. Right. So how has your work life improved with your new fitness? Well, I think I have more energy for sure. Sometimes it's hard sitting, but now I have points in my day. I have bands because I tend to, my back wants to hunch a little bit. So I'm always kind of
sitting all day,
trying to, and I'll do squats and things like that throughout the day because it feels good, because I do sit quite a bit. I feel like I have more energy. I feel like I have a better balance now, though. I really kind of scaled my work back a little bit. So I had more time for fitness, had more time with my family and things like that. So it made put a lot of things in perspective.
Does it put you in like a different mindset to like really be able to help these people? Because I know it puts you under a lot of stress, hearing these people's stories, helping them through their traumas and troubles. And so does it help alleviate stress for you too?
Oh, for sure. It definitely helps alleviate stress. It starts the day off kind of like I'm ready to go. I'm definitely a morning workout person. I'll occasionally do it in the evening, but I'm a morning person too. I usually wake up at 5 a.m.
It's that blood pumping going. Yeah, like you said, ready for the day.
And it's a lot easier for me throughout the day to think about putting it off. You get up and do it, it's done. So it definitely helps with stress. I mean, I tell my clients if they don't exercise, and a lot of them with depression, it's getting them some sort of movement. So that's a big part of it. I mean, it's a natural antidepressant. I mean, how can it's kind of a basic. It's hard to work on other things when, you're not healthy.
Why do you think movement helps depression so much?
I think, well, it's the idea, and I used to be depressed. I would get up and not feel like doing anything. And I occasionally do that. And, I already have the strategy. It's like I have to earn my couch time because sometimes like every once in a while, like on a Saturday, I've had a rough week. I just want to like stay on the couch. I've never stayed on the couch and been like proud of myself or felt good at the end of the day. Like I feel like, and I'll start to feel depressed. So I'm like, I have to go earn it. So I have to do something physical. And a lot of times I won't even want to go to the couch. But if I do, then it's more of a reward, not like, you know. So I think it's doing the opposite to what you feel. So people with depression kind of do things that make it worse. They avoid people. They don't get outside. They don't exercise. So they really limit, you know. I kind of joke with some of my clients that like have a terrible weekend. And I'm like, what'd you do all day? And I stayed in my bed. And you know, some of them will say, I thought about killing myself. And I'm like, that sounds like a miserable weekend. And, you know, you just eliminated any opportunity for any feeling of kind of mastery or joy, like unless unicorns descend in your room. And we're kind of taught to be a little bit irreverent because, you know, a lot of people would just, oh, that's really terrible. But it's like, no, what you did actually made it worse. And not because you're a bad human being, because your mood took over. So when you do the opposite, you can actually change your mood. You know, if you do the opposite, if you're afraid of something and you face it over time, the fear will go away. So it's the same with depression. If you're feeling low, but you do things that kind of change it, you can change how you feel throughout the day. And there's a lot of, you know, neurotransmitters that get going and stuff like that, being out in the light and, you know, things like that.
Sunlight and things like
right,
that. Yeah.
Right. So I think there's a lot of factors.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that. So tying into that a little bit, what does living beyond the scale mean to you?
Well, I think, you know, and some would call it a midlife crisis. I've heard it called midlife awakening, which is kind of funny, but I kind of like that one better. Because I don't think it's a crisis. I think, you know, I realized hiking, I was seeing some people like, I saw a man, I swear he was about 80, just coming down the mountain, like ropes for muscles in his legs.
My gosh.
And I mean, why could he do that? Because he's been doing it. He's been, you know, fit and taking care of himself. And the idea of becoming, not being able to do things active, like it became like not a reality now. I'm not that old, but it could happen.
Right.
And so I don't want to go out that way, you know, so I want to be able to do, you know, hike mountains when I'm 80.
Yeah.
If possible, like if I have any control over it, I will.
Which I'm sure if you keep this mindset that you have now, I have no doubt that you're going to hike at 80. And you're going on a hike to Mount Whitney in a few weeks here.
Yes, actually 3 weeks from today.
Okay.
So really, really excited. I'm actually a little bit worried about the aftermath because it's been last November we had decided. In December I got a tattoo of it.
Oh, nice.
And so we're planning things afterwards. We're trying to do John Muir in like 2 years when I turn 50.
Okay.
So we're trying to kind of keep, I think having a big goal like that is really important. Like it keeps me like, oh, I got to, you know, I can't hike this weekend. I'm going to do a bike ride instead because I want to be able to hike the mountain.
Yeah, always setting those goals and having something to strive for. Love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and all the advice that you gave. It was a pleasure having you on today. If you like this episode, make sure you leave a comment, like the page, and share this episode with your friends. Until next time. Did you know that you could have done a full workout in the amount of time it took you to listen to this podcast? Go to fitbodybootcamp.com to claim your 3 free sessions now. And remember to join me next Tuesday so you can see who our special guest is. Until then, remember to live a fit body, fit mind forever.